The database properties is a place you can go to view statistical information about your database, like the size of it, who created it, when it was last modified. You can also customize it. You can add the title for the database, the subject, some comments, things like that. There's a couple ways that you can get to it to view it. One way, you can view it and make changes to it, and that's within the database here. Come up here, click on the File tab, go to the Info. By default it's selected. Come over here and click on View It and Edit Database Properties. When you click on it, brings it up. It took me to the Summary tab, but let's go to the General tab. There's the statistical information, the size of it, the location of the database, when it was created, modified access. Now, if this database was on a server, sometimes your IT person will set it up where the name of the person will be listed here as well. In any case, the summary, you can see I've typed in my company name, also our website, videotrainingpro.com, and you can make some comments, any changes you'd like to make here. Statistics, pretty much the same here as the General tab. The contents, the tables that we have within the database, but we don't have any queries, forms, or reports, so they're not listed. And then custom, you can go ahead and select one of these fields here, like, oh, so-and-so checked it. Who checked it? Type in the value, it was me. And then go ahead and click Add. If you want to remove it, select it, click Delete, but I'll click OK. Once you click OK, it's automatically saved. You don't have to click Save. How do you know? Let me go ahead and close out. And it's in my Exercises folder on my desktop. Let me double-click to open it up. And it was my Table Analyzer database. Double-click, and then go File, down to Info. It's already selected, so let's come over here and click on View and Edit Database Properties, and there you go. See, didn't have to save it, automatically saved it for me. And then go ahead and click OK. And then to get out of the Backstage, I can either, well, of course, click on the tabs up here, or you can click on that Return to Document button there. Takes me back out of the Backstage. Close out. The other way to view the properties for the database here is to right-click and go to Properties. And you got some of the same information there, like the size of it, 1.44 megabytes, when it was created, modified, some details, and then some other tabs here regarding security and previous versions. After you've been working in your database for a while, it's a good idea to use the Compact and Repair feature. For example, let me look at the Advanced Queries database here. When I right-click and go to Properties, you see the size of it's 3.26 megabytes. Well, that's a bit large for that database. In other words, let me double-click to open it up. I mean, it's just basically a bunch of data. It shouldn't be that big. What happens with Access is that when you add a bunch of tables, delete a bunch of tables, it'll create pockets. In other words, it won't reduce the size of the database. It'll still be there, showing that there's nothing there. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and compact it and then repair it so it can go ahead and crunch that empty space so we have the original size of the database and not this extra space that was left there because we deleted something to leave a pocket of emptiness. So let's go ahead and click on the File tab, go down to the Info, it's already selected, click on Compact and Repair. When I click on it, give it a second, boom, it's done. Now it was 3.26 megabytes, right? Let's go ahead and close out of it and then right-click on it, go to Properties, and now it's 576 kilobytes. What does that mean? Well, there's 1,000 kilobytes per megabyte, and so that reduced it quite a bit, didn't it? So from time to time, you want to go ahead after you worked in your database for a while to compact and repair it so you don't have this mammoth file. There may be times where you want to back up your database before you make any major changes to it. That way, if you mess up, you can always refer to the backup. So to back up your database, it's really simple. Come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Save and Publish, and then over to the right in the Advanced section, go ahead and double-click on Backup Database. When you double-click on it, it's going to go ahead and give you a generic file name. It's going to go ahead and have the name of the file, and then today's date for the backup. I mean, you can go ahead and rename that. And then you just need to go ahead and find a place to save it in. I'm going to save it in my Exercises folder on my desktop. Click Save. That's it. It's backed up. So after it backs it up, it takes me back to my original database here, Advanced Queries. Let me minimize that down to the taskbar. Double-click to open up the Exercises folder. You can see it's right there. Backup with today's date. If you want to password protect your database so nobody else has access to it unless they have a password, you can't just come up here and click on File, go to Info and click on Encrypt, because it says that you have to open up the database exclusively. In other words, you have to throw everybody out of the house so it's just you that has exclusive access to the database. How do you do it? Let me go ahead and click OK. Come up here, click on the File tab, go to Open, just like you're opening up the database here, because, well, that's what we're going to do. And we want to open up the advanced queries. Now, instead of just double clicking on it, we select it, come down here and click on the arrow to the right of the open button. And there it is, open up exclusively. Click on it. It opens it up exclusively so nobody else is in it but me. Then I can come up here, click on the File tab, go to Info, click on Encrypt, and then I can type in my password, PASS, hit the Tab key, PASS, hit Enter. Now because Access 2010 is using apparently what it looks to be a newer encryption, it's not allowing for row level locking. It'll be ignored. In other words, it doesn't lock the row from preventing somebody else in a record from editing that same row or record. So let's go ahead and click OK. And then let's take it for a test drive. We'll go ahead and close out. And then we'll double click on Access to open up the program. And over here to the left hand side was my most recent database that I've been working in, the one that I set the password to. Click on it, ask for the password, PASS, hit Enter. Great. Now to reset the password, I have to open this back up as an exclusive user. As you recall, you need to open it up exclusively to set it and also remove it. So to go ahead and remove it, again, File to Open, we'll select it, Open to Exclusive. Of course, we need to type in the password, hit Enter, and then click on File, go to Info, and then we can go ahead and decrypt it. And then, of course, type in the password again, hit Enter, and that's it. Before you delete any of your objects here, it's a good idea to check to see what it's dependent upon. For example, if I delete my customer orders, is the report based upon it? In other words, is the report based upon that query that if I delete it, then the report's going to have nothing in it? To find out, come up here, click on the Database Tools tab, go to the Relationships group and click on Object Dependencies. And then it says to generate this, the track name autocorrect info option must be turned on. Are you okay with that? Of course. Let's click OK. Opens up the task pane over to the right. And you can see here it's for the customer orders query, the one that I had selected here. And it says objects that depend upon me. Well, it's the customer orders report. So if I get rid of this, the customer orders is going to have nothing in it. And then also over here for the reports, is anything dependent upon this report? Nothing. Now I can also flip this to say instead of objects that depend upon me, how about objects that I depend upon, or that this query is based upon? What tables? Let's go ahead and select it, and it's a total of 4 tables. So if I delete any one of these 4 tables, like the products table, then this query is going to be invalid. Well, at least when it comes to pulling in the products from the products table. So after you find the dependencies here, then go ahead and remove the customer orders. Just know that the report that's dependent upon it, we can remove that as well because that would be obsolete without the query that it would be based upon. If you want to get really analytical about what's going on in your database with all the objects, then you want to use the Database Documenter. It's a feature that will create a report about any or all objects in the database, with controllability on the level of detail including only those objects that are important to you. For example, like design, properties, relationship, and user or group permissions of selected objects. So if I want to go ahead and take a look at one of the objects, like a query here, come up here, click on the Database Tools tab, go to the Analyze group, click on Database Documenter, and then go ahead and choose the object. It's going to be query, specifically what query. Let's do the employee data. Click OK and click to zoom in, and wow, it's very detailed. For example, the columns that we have within this query include the employee ID. It's got the data type, it's text, the size is 4 characters, aggregate -1, allow 0 length string, it's true, append only, it's false. I mean, geez, if you really need to analyze this, have fun. Also the SQL coding here, and let's go to page 2. There's the rest of the fields there, first name, and the properties tied to that first name field, street address, so on. In any case, if you want to go ahead and export this and send it to somebody in an email, you want to make sure it's secure because you don't want your data being stolen by somebody else. So in any case, maybe not email it, but if you want to go ahead and stick it to a DVD and take it over to somebody else's computer, it doesn't have a save button up here, but you can go ahead and come over here to the data group and click on Export to PDF or a text file or to Excel. Click on PDF. There it is, PDF. Let's go to the desktop, and then you can name it whatever you'd like. Click on Publish. Give it a second. There we go. It published to the PDF Acrobat program here. Close out. You can save your export steps if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and close out, and then close out of the database here because there it is. Exported it to my desktop PDF. Double click, and there it is again. Access has the Performance Analyzer. It'll analyze your database and suggest performance improvements, and that can be found up here on the Database Tools tab to the Analyze group, and there's Analyze Performance. Click on it, and then go ahead and choose. Well, instead of just a few of the objects here, let's go to the All Objects tab and click on Select All, and then click OK. Give it a second and go ahead and have some fun. Well, here's the key here. So we got some light bulbs that says, hey, I got an idea. Application, save your application as an MDE file, and some other suggestions here and question marks like this table, the employee's business, select it, relate to the employee's personal table. So in other words, it wants me to create this relationship, and it tells me what its analysis notes are. Hey, this optimization will benefit the query, the phone list query, and potentially other objects in your database. Well, go ahead and like I said, maybe some of these take them with a grain of salt. Otherwise, after going through it, if you go with the suggestions and clean it up, it should help a little bit, if not a lot, depending upon how your database has been structured. I want to show you how you can import an XML data file into your Access database. First of all, what is an XML? Well, it stands for Extensible Markup Language. There's the X in extensible in XML. In any case, it's a go-between program of software that is incompatible because of differences in versions or programming. So if you have one program that you want to pull data from and put into another incompatible program, you can export it first as an XML file and then import that file into your other program. And you want to see example or figure A down below. So I have two incompatible database programs. One of them, let's say Software B, is the Access 2010 program. If I want to be able to share my information and give it to this person over here who has another database program, if I can export it into an XML file, then he can go ahead and import it and vice versa. Now, in addition to the raw data that you export into an XML file that strips it down without any formatting that would be incompatible in between the two programs, you have next what are called schemas. And there's a set of rules that can be tied to the XML file that can be used when it comes to defining the data types. Like, for example, as you recall in the Access Level 1 training video when it came to creating our tables and we created the fields, like for the first name we said the data type for this field is going to be text. For the date field it would be the date data type, and then number field for any number fields and so on. In addition, it'll hold information about the structure of the data. So when you have all this raw data just sitting out there, it'll say, okay, all this data that's tied to the first name goes to the first name field with this data type. Last name to last name field with that data type. So you got to have rules and structure, otherwise just a bunch of raw data. I don't think it's really going to help here. Now, in addition to the XSD and XML files, you have what's called an XSL, and it can be used to transform the data in an XML file, or in other words, used to apply formatting by using the XSLT extension, exporting it to the Extensible Style Sheet Language Transformer. So if you look at all these, the XSLT, XSD, and XML, they're all extensions. Now, if you don't know anything about extensions, then I recommend that you watch my Windows 7 training video on extensions, but I'll go over it just a little bit. Now, before I go ahead and show you how you can import an XML file, let me show you what it looks like in its raw form. Let me go ahead and close out of the document here, open up my exercises folder, and there we go. I've got my samples for the XML and XSD, which it's linked to, because remember, the XML file contains raw data. The XSD file gives structure to the raw data, so it's not just a bunch of data floating all over the place. In other words, it'll say, okay, this data belongs to this field. Let's call it the first name of the client. And then this data belongs to the last name of the client, or maybe the street address, or you see it's organizing it into those fields and assigning it the data type, like the first name field has the data type of text and the last name text and so on. In any case, I want to be able to show you the contents therein, the behind-the-scenes coding, so you get a better feel for what XML is all about before we actually import it. Now, when you look at this on my computer, you see the name of the file that I gave it when I saved the file, and then the dot, and then the extension of the file's name. This extension is the name that the computer assigns to it when I save it, so it knows next time when I double-click and open it up, it looks at that extended name and says, okay, this is the program that this file belongs to, so I'll open that file up in this program. Now, if you don't see the extensions on your computer and you want to view them, then you want to watch my Windows 7 training video on extensions and learn a little bit more about them. In any case, let me go ahead and open this file up, the XML, which I can open up one of two ways. I can either double-click on it, in which case it'll open up in the Internet Explorer, or I can open it up from Notepad. which I'll do for the XSD file, because the XSD file, when I double click on it, Windows goes, I don't know what program to open this up in, but in any case, let me go ahead and open up the XML file. When I double click on it, it opens up. It displays the contents therein, and it says, okay, here we go. We've got the customers. We've got customer 1, which is the ID, customer 2, customer 3. And you'll notice that around the 1, they have what are called tags. If you've ever taken an HTML class, it's almost exactly the same in so many ways. In other words, it takes the data and it tags it, and it says, okay, here's 1. In front of it, it's going to be known as the customer ID. And then it has the customer ID, and then it closes it, and it just basically repeats the name, but with the / for the closing tag. So anything in between these two tags, the opening and the closing, is, well, what it says, the customer ID. And then we have the opening for customer name, / customer name closing. So between that, the customer name is Mountain Camping, address, city, state, so on. We have the notes, loves outdoor products in the sleeping bags and tents category. Then it goes to the next customer, customer 2, customer 3. And I want you to notice that up at the top here, it's linked to the customer.xsd file, the schema file. That contains a set of rules, a structure for all this data here, so it can go ahead and organize it into the appropriate fields. Even though it's tagged with the fields here, this will actually organize it and put it into those labeled fields. So let me go ahead and close out. Click on Start, open up the Notepad, so I can go File to Open, because I want to be able to view the contents within the XSD file, and Notepad is the only program that I know of that I can go ahead and view the contents therein. Now, I'm looking in the exercises folder, but I can't see anything in there because it's only looking for .txt extension files, text document files. Let's click on the drop-down arrow, go to All Files, I can see all of them, double-click on the XSD. Some of the coding I'm not familiar with, but some of it is pretty self-explanatory in that you're looking at the element name, customer ID. That's where it's going to take from the XML file that tag customer ID data and put it in the customer ID field here. And it's got the, data type auto number. And then we go down to the customer name fields. Whatever's tagged with the customer name has the data type text. And the max amount of character that you can go ahead and type into that field is 50 characters. And then you've got address, maximum length 45 characters. You can scroll down all the way to the bottom here, and we have a notes field which has the data type memo, which, man, the maximum length is, I don't know, in the millions there for characters. In any case, you got a lot of space to type into that memo field. Okay, let's go ahead and close out of here, and let's open up our database integration and import that XML file into the database here. Now, I want you to know I already have a customers table. So if I import this and it's the customers file, because it sees a duplicate already in here named that, it'll probably call it customers1. So to go ahead and import this XML file, let's go up here, click on external data, go to import and link, and click on XML file. And it says, where's the file? Well, it's on my desktop in the exercises folder, so let me browse for it. Go to the desktop over in the navigation pane, over in the main view, double click on exercises, there it is, XML. Now when I go ahead and double click on this, it sets the address to it, but remember the XML file is linked to the XSD file to give it structure, so it'll figure all this out once I click OK to import it. And you can see right here it says, okay, the import options for my table, when I click on to expand it, has organized it into the customers table with the customer fields here, ID, name, address. And then do I want the structure and the data, or the structure only? If I choose structure only, the XML file, the data therein, doesn't come over. It just looks at the XSD file and says, okay, the structure's in there, we'll pull it from that. But because I want both the structure and the data, it'll utilize both the XML file that contains the data and the XSD file, the schema file, that contains the structure. So I'll go ahead and leave it there and click Okie dokie. And then do I want to go ahead and save my steps? So next time if I want to import it, I don't have to go through all those steps again. I'll go ahead and click close, and there we go. There's customers. So it didn't have the tag TBL, and there's my original customers table, and this is the one that I imported. Double click and cool. Remember we had 3 clients in there, 1, 2, 3, and then we had the notes, loves outdoors, and anyways. Now if you watched the previous training video on learning how to import an XML file, let's go ahead and export one of our tables into an XML file. So let me go ahead and close out of this one that we imported. And let's export the products table as an XML file. So I selected it, come up here, click on the external data tab, go to the export group and click on XML file. It says, okay, where do you want to dump it? Click Browse. Let me go to the desktop. Let's just do the desktop. And then the name of the file, I'm okay with that. TBL products. Click Save. And then go ahead and click OK. And then it says, what information will be exported? The raw data and the structure. How about the presentation of your data? In other words, the layout. I'm just going to go ahead and have the raw data and the structure of the data checked and click OK. That's it. I can save the steps or not, close out, minimize this down to the taskbar, and there's my, when I select it, click and drag over here, .xsd file, and here's the raw data and the structure for that data. And of course I can double click on the raw data there. There we go. We've got the product 1 Tiki Torch, the product price, the category it's tied to, then product 2, product 3, and so on. That way, I can go ahead and take these two files, send them off to the other person who doesn't have access, that is working in another database program, and they should be able to import the XML file and the file that it's linked to, the structured data file .xsd, to give that data structure. Access has a cool little feature that allows it to integrate with the Outlook 2010 program. First of all, what's Outlook? Well, to oversimplify, Outlook is an email program where you can send and receive emails, but it's so much more. To learn more about it, I recommend that you watch my Outlook 2010 training videos. But some of the other things that Outlook can do is that you can create contacts and store them in your address book, things that you want to keep track of, like a client's name, their address, phone number, emails. Also, it has a calendar where you can go ahead and schedule appointments, and tasks where you can create tasks, assign them to other people if you'd like. In any case, how it's going to integrate here with Access is that we're going to be using what are called smart tags or Outlook smart tags, that when you click in a field, it's going to display a little tag with a list of actions that I can click on, and some of the actions will be to send an email, also to be able to add this customer name as a contact. And I can think of two reasons why I want to do this, or why I want to integrate this with Outlook, is because I can send an email right here just by, again, clicking on that smart tag for each customer. In addition to that when I add them as a contact in Outlook, I can keep track of notes that are more personable for each customer here that not everybody hopefully has access to, as opposed to a database where if it's on the server, everybody will be able to read the notes here. But on a more personal level, I can go ahead and write additional notes for that contact in my Outlook address book. So to go ahead and add a little smart tag to the customer name for all these customers, let me go ahead and right click, go to the design view, select the customer name field up above, and then down below in its corresponding field properties, click in the Smart Tags cell, and then over to the right, click on its corresponding build button. And then you have a list of available action tags. You've got the date, select it, and it lists the actions for that tag down below where you can schedule a meeting, show my calendar, again, integrating with Outlook. We have the telephone number. The action is just to add this to the contacts. In any case, I want to select person name, check it. And the actions here is that it'll allow me to send an email, schedule a meeting, open the contact, and if I don't have the contact, then I can go ahead and add that contact to the address book in Outlook. Go ahead and click OK. Be sure to save my work. Click on the View button, and there we go. You see those little purple triangles in the bottom right-hand corner of all the customers in the customer name field. When you hover over it, it gives you a little eye that pops up for information. Hover over that and it says, okay, I'm a smart tag and I've got some actions that if you click on the drop-down arrow, I'll list those actions for you. You can go ahead and send an email, schedule a meeting. Again, the list that we just saw in the design view. Now, I can't send an email if I don't have them as a contact in my address book. So if I don't have them, go ahead and click on Add to Contacts. You can go ahead and click on Open Contact, and if this customer isn't there, it'll say I can't find it. So click OK, try it again, hover over the smart tag, click on the drop-down arrow, click Add to Contacts, and there we go. Now, how do I know which program I'm in? Well, look at the File tab. It's orange. That's for Outlook, as opposed to the purple tab for Access. So I'm in an entirely different program here. Out of Access, it's the Outlook 2010 program. Got mountain camping. Let's go ahead and type in an email address here. And then, of course, you can go ahead and add their business phone numbers, home phone numbers, street address, personal notes that you can keep separate outside of the database notes. When you're done, go ahead and click Save and Close, and that's it. Now that you have the contact added to your address book in Outlook and also the email address, I can just come up here at any time, click on the drop-down arrow, and say I want to send them an email. Again, we've got the orange tag here, so it opened up Outlook. to where I can go ahead and compose an email here. It's got mountain camping. It doesn't have the email address, but that's okay. Just be sure that you added it to the contact. It's going to list by default just the name of the contact. But when I click send, it'll actually go ahead and look for the email address for the contact and send that off, or give it a second while it thinks about it, and then it brings it in. Go ahead and type in the subject, hi, just want boo, and then go ahead and click send. Now, depending upon your Outlook settings, it might shoot it off. Mine doesn't. I have to come down here, click on the Start button, go up here to open up the Outlook program. And it's sitting in the outbox until I open it up, and then give it a couple of seconds, then I'll shoot it off. Okay, it sent it. Great. That's it. And then if I need to go ahead and make changes, add some more information to that contact, again, hover over the cell there to bring up that little smart tag, click on the drop down arrow, open up the contact here, make changes when I'm done. Save and close. You're looking at my customers table, and every time I get a new customer, I have to enter their information here. When I'm getting tens or hundreds or thousands of new customers a day, I'd rather have them fill it in than me. How does that work? Well, I'm not going to have access to my Access program here, but what I can do is I can use the Collect Email Data feature in Access. What that does is it allows me to collect data from other people by sending them a data entry form in an email message. So in that form, I can go ahead and specify the fields in this table that I want them to fill in. Once they fill it in and they hit reply and it comes back, I can have Access automatically process those replies and take their data from that email message, from that form, and dump it right into here, and boom, all the work's been done for me. Really cool. Now keep in mind a couple of things. First of all is that I can't choose all the fields. See if this makes sense. I've got the customer ID field, and it's got the data type applied to it, auto number, so it's automatically generating that field. So I don't need the customers to fill in that field, so that's not going to be included in the form. The other thing is that because it works in conjunction with Outlook, you got to make sure that you have the Outlook program installed on your computer. And also, the email recipients should have Outlook as well in order for it to work properly. So to get started here, just make sure you select the table that you want to go ahead and create this data entry form or to base it upon. Then come up here, click on the External Data tab, go to the Collect Data group, and then click on Create Email. It's going to list the steps that needs to be accomplished in order to complete the operation here. You can go ahead and read those, but I'm going to go ahead and click Next. The first step is go ahead and select one of the following types of forms. Do you want an HTML or an info path? If you've worked with info path, go ahead and choose that. I'm going to keep it simple and say an HTML form. Click Next. And then here's all the fields within the table excluding one, which is the customer ID, because remember, that has the auto number data type field to it, so it's automatically going to fill in for me when we start adding records here. So I can go ahead and choose all the other fields by selecting it, hitting the Add Selected Field button, or I'm going to choose all of them here. And then over here I've got a couple of options. I can go ahead and reorder the fields here so the customer name in the data entry form is not the first field that they fill out. I can go ahead and move that down, have it as the second field, or go ahead and move it back up. And then as you recall, when it comes to creating or naming our fields here, well, I've got customer names slammed together. When it comes to the naming convention, yours may not be very conventional when it comes to, well, in this case, my customers. So if you have CN as the acronym for customer name, you may want to select this and then come down here where it says label to display in front of the field in the email message and clarify it. Go ahead and type it out, give it a space, and then go to the next field, come down here, clarify it so the label makes sense to what they're going to be filling in. There's no save button, so when I come back here, you can see that after I type it, add the space, it automatically saved it. In any case, let's go ahead and click Next. And then the replies, it says, is going to be stored in the following folder, which is going to be the Access Data Collection Replies folder, which is going to be a subfolder to the Inbox folder. I'll show you that once we pull up Outlook here. And then down below it says, you want to go ahead and have the replies automatically processed? Yes, go ahead and check that. And you can also, once you check it, set the properties of the automatic processing. When you click it and open it up, you've got the default checkboxes here. You can go ahead and change the settings. You also have the date and time to stop. If you've got some other email campaign going on to collect data that says, okay, for this day only, those who go ahead and give us their information will enter them in a drawing. That might work. Go ahead and click on the date picker field, choose a date, and then it automatically adds the time, a generic time. You can go ahead and of course update that and say it's a, type over P for AM if it's in the PM, and then, change the time. I'm going to click cancel, click next, and then it says, how do you want to specify the email addresses of the recipients? Either through Outlook or Access. If it's Outlook, you got a couple of choices. You can either type in the email address for each recipient, or you can also use Outlook's address book. And if you don't know how to use that, then again, you want to watch my Outlook 2010 training videos. Or if you have a data field over here, and I don't, but if I did, and it had a list of all the email addresses for each client, which kind of defeats this training video because I want to be able to add only new clients. In any case, I'll go ahead and use the Outlook program, click next, and then it says review the subject and introduction here. So do you want this for the subject in your email, add customers table form, and then the introduction? Go ahead and make changes if you don't like it. And then click next. And then it says, okay, hey, you're ready here. When you click create, you're going to see your email message with the data entry form in that message, or the body of the message. And then it says to see the email status, you can go ahead and go to the external data tab in Access 2010 and click manage the replies. Also, when it comes to processing the replies and to import the data into your database here, you'll have to open up the Outlook 2007 or later, which is in this case Outlook 2010, so 2007 or 2010, from which if you checked automatic processing, the data will be imported into the database when we start Outlook. Let's go ahead and click create, and it's flashing down below. Go ahead and click on the corresponding button. Let's maximize it to see it all. Fill out the form, please, and then below that in the body, fill out the form included in the message and send it back to me. And then it gives a warning. Type only in the areas designated for data entry. Your reply will be automatically processed, so hey, make sure you stick to the fields here. In any case, let's go ahead and type in some email addresses here that we want these customers to go ahead and fill in their information. I'll go ahead and send one to myself. That way, when I send it to myself, you can get an idea of what to expect when you get one of these and how to reply to it. I mean, it's pretty simplistic. Go ahead and click send. Then let me go ahead and open up Outlook. Click on the Start button, go to Microsoft Outlook 2010, click on it. It's sitting in the outbox, and then it sends it off, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and go to my inbox, click on Send and Receive. I should be getting my own email message back. Okay, there it is. Double click. Okay, fill out the form, please. Now, of course, when it comes to filling it out, we have to hit the reply button to send it back to the email address essentialoils@dreamforce.us. So go ahead and hit reply, and then as it says, only type in the designated areas because that's the only thing that Access is going to see. So when I scroll down, I mean, I can type outside of it, but it's not going to pick it up. For the customer name, there's the label of it. And remember, the name of the field had it slammed together. No space in between customer and name. So again, your naming convention, you can go ahead and change the label here so it's something that the person filling out this form would understand what you're asking for. So go ahead and click in here and then type in the customer name. Then hit the tab key, goes to the next field. And notice down below it says type in any combination of numbers and letters up to 50 characters. Again, it's reading the field properties for that field that we have back in our Access database because remember, we set limits back in Access Level 1 to our field saying, okay, just 2 characters for the state. And there you can see it down below. Any combination of numbers and letters up to 2 characters. In any case, let me fill this in real quick. Hit the tab key, zip code. And then, hey, why not allow them to type in some notes? And then when you're done, click Send to submit your information. Okay, let's go ahead and click Send. Close out. Go ahead and close out of Outlook. And then we're just sitting here waiting for the replies. But as you recall in the wizard there, the setup, it said you have to have Outlook open. So let's go ahead and open it back up. Click on the Start button. Go to the Outlook program. And then go ahead and come up here on the Home tab to the Send and Receive. Click on that. Let's get those coming in here. Now when you look in your inbox, it's not going to be there. As you recall, that is going to dump it into a folder that's going to be a subfolder to the inbox. In other words, if you look over here in the navigation pane, you see the inbox, how it has a little drop down arrow. Click on it. There it is, Access Data Collection folder. Click in there and we have the 2 replies. Now if I go back to my Access database, I don't see them in here. I could come up here on the Home tab and click Refresh, and there we go. Cool. Because I already had the table open, it just needs to be refreshed so it can pull in the data. Automatically processed, awesome. I don't have to type it in. I had all my clients do the work for me. When it comes to one client, typing in a record. I'm sure that's probably not a big deal. It'll take them about a minute or two. But if I have to type in a lot, that's going to take me a lot of time. So now coming back up here on the External Data tab to the Collect Data group to manage the replies, click on it. And here's the form that I just sent out. If I send out additional forms, I could go ahead and I'll see those here as well. And you can see up above what I have selected, the fields that were included in the message, the customer name, address, city, and you can scroll down. We've got some message options. Remember, in the wizard, we can go ahead and set the date and time to stop it, or uncheck or check all the other settings. Let me click cancel. I can go ahead and resend this message in case if somebody's like, oh, I accidentally deleted it. And better yet, if we're finished with it, go ahead and select it and delete this email message. And then of course back in my Outlook program, I still have that folder there. And if I don't want to do this anymore, I can go ahead and right click on it, delete the folder. You sure you want to do it? Yeah. It dumps it over into the deleted items bin just as a backup. So that way if I really want to delete it, let me go ahead and expand it. There it is again. Right click on it one more time and delete it. And this will do a permanent deletion. Are you sure you want to do this? Say yes. As you recall, back in the Access Level 1 training video, we learned how to create our tables, create the fields therein, and assign them a data type. Like the data type for this field is the auto number, and the rest of these are text fields where I can type in text or a combination of text and numbers. In any case, I want to introduce you to another data type field. It's called the attachment field, where, just like it sounds, it allows you to attach like documents, zip files, and most images too, to your records here. And it will automatically compress those images and files if they aren't already. So to go ahead and add an attachment field, let's right-click the tab here, go to the design view, and let's type in, this can be our attachment. Hit the tab key, click on the data type drop-down arrow, and it's going to be an attachment field, attachment. In any case, maybe this is supposed to be for reports only, reports on our clients. So instead of saying attachment for the field name, which is what I like, for the front-end user, come down here in the corresponding field properties, you can say it's for reports, or the report field that they can attach reports to. Let's go ahead and click on the View button. Be sure to save your table. Then it switches over. You can see right there the report field. And it's an attachment field indicated by the little paperclip. And you can see zeros on all the records here because we haven't attached anything to any of the records yet. We just added the fields. So to attach items to this record, the first one here, just go ahead and double click on it. It opens up, says, okay, what do you want to add? Let's click Add. And let me go to the exercises folder, double click, and let's add an image, double click there. We can add, let's say, a report that goes with that image. Click Add, and then double click on that. Well, they're two separate things, but you get the idea. You can add images, you can add documents, reports, click OK, and then it updates and it says, okay, we got two attachments here. Well, you need to save the record. You can see that it's in write mode with that pencil. Go ahead and click in the next record, it saves it. To view them, go ahead and double click. It opens up the window. And then I can go ahead and select it, click open, or better yet, just double click. It opens up the image in the photo viewer program, close out, and it'll open up the document in Microsoft Word here. That is, if you have Microsoft Word installed on your computer. Go ahead and close out. And then to remove them, go ahead and select it, click remove. You can also, if this database is on the server and you want to go ahead and take one of the reports and save it to your computer, select it, click Save As, and then navigate over in the navigation pane here to your desktop, click Save. Okay. Let me click Cancel. I want to show you what it looks like when you have a form based upon this table that has an attachment field. Let me go ahead and close out. Select the Customers table because I want to base my report upon that table that has the attachment field. Come up here, click on the Create tab, go to the Forms group, and let's go ahead and just click on the Form button, do a quick one here. And then right-click, go to the Form view, and there it is. There's the first attachment in this record. How do I get to the second attachment? Well, one of two ways. You can either select the field and then you get this little navigation bar. You can go forward to see the attachment there, go backwards to see the previous attachment, or go ahead and click on this to add the attachment. Okay. You can also, when in doubt, right click and you get the forward, and you can right click and go back, and you can go ahead and right click and manage the attachments. You get the idea, okay? And then click cancel. You can even double click on it. It brings it up as well. If you need to save your Access 2010 database to an earlier version like 2002, 2003, all you have to do is come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Save and Publish, then come over here, and there you go. 2002, 2003, or even 2000. Go ahead and select it, click on Save As, and then it says you can't save this database in an earlier version because it uses features that require the current file format. These features include attachments, multi-value fields, offline data, macros, calculated columns. I mean, we may get to a point of no return because I'm looking at this going, okay, how much of this do I have to remove before I can convert it to an earlier version? Let's go ahead and click OK. I know I have attachments. If I come up here and click on the File tab for the customers, double click, open it up, and let's get rid of the attachment field here. If you watch the training video on attached fields, I think, well, it says that's one of the issues. Right click, go to the design view. Let's go ahead and delete the attachment, say yes, click on view, save my work, and let's go ahead and close out. Let's go to File, down to Save and Publish, click on 2002, 2003 again, click on Save As, and that was the culprit. But it had a laundry list there of things that it didn't like or was incompatible with earlier versions of Access. In any case, let's go ahead and save this to the desktop and keep it as integration. There it is, 2002, 2003, click Save. There is no object in this control. Click OK. Your Microsoft Access database or project contains a missing or broken reference to the file. Like I said, I got a lot going on here. Let's click OK. We're still having issues. The database or project contains a missing or broken reference file. Click OK. And wow, let's click on the drop down arrow and say we want to see all objects, because you can see up at the top that the database is now in an earlier version. But like I said, it shook up some things there, so I'm not quite sure exactly how much I'm going to have to deal with when it comes to converting to an earlier version. So if you run into those issues, if you can, I wouldn't convert to an earlier version unless your database is so squeaky clean and you don't have all these fancy attachment fields or other codes in there, then not an issue. Close out, and there it is on the desktop. You got the old Access icon key here, as opposed to, let me open up the exercises folder. You can see the letter A, the Access 2010 version. The navigation form we didn't cover in Access Level 1, but I want to cover now, and I'll explain it in just a minute. But the navigation form comes with tabs that you can click on to display other forms or reports within that navigation form. In other words, it's one-stop shopping. You get all the forms and reports you want within one window. You don't have to come over here and click and open up and display several windows. For example, to create it, come up here, click on the Create tab, go to the Forms group, and there it is, Navigation, hover over it. There's the explanation. It creates a form that allows people to browse to different forms and reports, but within the same navigation form. Go ahead and click on it, and you can have a choice from between horizontal tabs up at the top that you can click on each tab to display one form at a time, or vertically, or in any case, to keep it simple, let's go ahead and do horizontal tabs. Click on it. It opens it up. There's the first tab. How do I go ahead and add a form within this navigation form? Come over here and let's expand it, and it's as simple as clicking and dragging. So if I click and drag the customer's form and hover over and drop it on to where it says Add New, boom, it adds it. Then it opens up the Add New tab again so I can add additional forms. Let me go ahead and click out of the field list here, and let's add the order details, click and drag and drop. Cool. How about reports? Let me go ahead and expand it down here and scroll down. The final Q1 report, click and drag that and drop it here. Now, when it comes to reports, I would say only add reports here to be viewed, not to print. Because if you try to print them, it's not going to work. For example, if I come up here, click on the File tab, go to Print, and click on Print Preview, the report's cut off. What you see here is what's going to come out of your printer. Remember, we're dealing with the form here, not an actual report. I mean, it's a report within a form, but it's taking on the form properties, so I wouldn't print it here because you'll lose some data. Let me go ahead and close out, but actually open up the report and print it there. In any case, when I'm done adding my forms and reports here, I can go ahead and right-click and switch from the layout view, which allows me to add more forms and reports, to the form view. Then the Add New tab disappears, and I can go ahead and toggle between all these within a single window here. Now you'll notice on the customer's form, you can't see it because it's cut off. Go ahead and scroll down, and use the inner horizontal scroll bar to scroll back and be able to see the labels for the corresponding data fields. And that's it. When I'm finished, be sure to save your work. Click on the Save button. It can be my FRM, form, hit Enter, and that's it. Now let me do one more, something a bit more complex in case if you decide to go ahead and have tabs not only horizontally but vertically as well. Let me close out of here. Come up here, click on the Create tab, the Forms group, navigation down to horizontal tabs and vertical tabs. Click on it. You get both. Now, when it comes to adding forms, add them up at the top first because the horizontal tabs are the main categories and the vertical tabs are the subcategories. Let me show you. If I go ahead and click on Customers, drag it to the horizontal tab, and then let's go ahead and add Contact to the second horizontal tab. If I go back to the first and I add like Order Details to the vertical tab and then Orders to the vertical tab, notice that when I click on the Form Contact, it doesn't have those I would say forms to the main form here. It's not actually a subform, but it acts like it. Let me go ahead and close out of the field list. So set up the structure of the navigation form with your horizontal tab first, because if you try to do it vertically first, let me go ahead and go to the Add New here so I don't add it to this tab here. And let's do Customers again, and let's add it to the vertical one first. Ugh, that's annoying. I mean, it's crunched up here, so the only way I can view my customers is to scroll vertically, and that doesn't work. You see what I'm saying? So we can go ahead and undo that. To be able to remove the tabs here, just go ahead and select it, hit the delete key, and select, delete. I mean, you get the idea. Now finally, I wanted to be able to cover the navigation forms at this point in our training in level 3, because in the next training video we have what are called switchboards. It's another form that instead of having tabs on it, will have buttons. And these buttons, when you click on it, doesn't navigate within the form here. It actually opens up outside of the form, navigates to another form, these buttons, or opens up another report, which like I said can be very handy because when it comes to printing the report, you don't want to do it within the navigation form. It just cuts it off. So go ahead and pick and choose which one's going to work best for you, a navigation form or a switchboard form. And that's going to take a couple of training videos to set that up and show you. But anything that requires a lot of work, typically, I would say when it comes to access, allows for more flexibility. Now, if you're set on using the navigation forms or any form for that matter, not a navigation form or a switchboard form, you want to watch the Switchboard Startup Options training video because there I can show you how you can go ahead and choose any form, but for that training video it's going to be the switchboard form, but any form you can go ahead and have it automatically open up anytime you open up your database there. The switchboard is nothing more than a form that you can customize with a bunch of command buttons that the front-end user can go ahead and click on to open up a form or report. For example, as opposed to using the navigation pane, if the front-end user comes over here and they're looking at my forms to update the customer information, which one do they use? Customers, customer info, contact? Well, unless I clearly label the forms here, they could get lost. Maybe I have one form that I want to replace another form with. Well, if they open up the wrong form to add the customer information to update it, well, I could have data integrity issues. Instead, I can go ahead and create that switchboard that has a button that when they click on it, will open up one form here. In other words, I can control what they have access to when it comes to forms and reports. Well, not only that, but tables and queries. In that, I can go ahead and hide the navigation pane here, which I'll show you how to do in a later training video. But really, they don't need to see the tables or queries, at least in my database, because remember, forms are based upon queries and tables and also the reports as well. So I can limit them to just the forms and reports from the switchboard. So to go ahead and create the switchboard, I want to come up here and customize the Quick Access toolbar to add the Switchboard Manager command. Go ahead and right-click on it, go to Customize, click on Popular, go to All Commands, and then scroll down all the way down to the S's to find the Switchboard Manager, which is right there. Double-click. I'm going to go ahead and select it and move it down so it's right after the Redo command. Click OK, and there it is. Go ahead and click on it. Access says, hey, we can't find a Switchboard Manager in the database. Do you want to go ahead and create one now? Yes. Go ahead and click on it. It does three things. One, it brings up the Switchboard Manager, which we'll cover in just a second. And then as you recall, the Switchboard Manager is a form. So there's the form right here, but it doesn't have any items or command buttons on it yet. And remember, the form is always going to be based upon a table. So it created the Switchboard Items table. So for every item or command button that we add to the form, it's got to keep track of it somehow, so it's going to store that data within the Switchboard Items table. So now, back to our main switchboard. we can go ahead and edit that and add the commands to it to open up, well, if we had 30 forms we wanted them to have access to and 40 reports. I mean, don't junk up the main switchboard with a total of 70 buttons in this example or so many. Instead, we can go ahead and break this down and split it off from the main switchboard to, let's say, have a report switchboard and a form switchboard, because those who want reports don't need to look at forms and those who want to look at forms don't need to see the reports. So I don't need to junk up the main switchboard. What I can do is I can create 2 additional switchboards that I could go ahead and have it link or have them obtain access to those other switchboards from the main switchboard here. So to create those additional ones, go ahead and click New. Let's go ahead and type in, hit Enter, click New again, and then we'll have, now I can type in Form Switchboard where it's going to list all the forms, but for people who really aren't familiar with Access when it comes to updating data, think of it more along their terms. I call it forms because that's what they're going to have access to, but you can call it like the maintenance switchboard, to maintain the data. So I'll type that in. Hit Enter. Now, from the main switchboard, we got to have command buttons that they can click on to get access to the maintenance switchboard and the reports. So go ahead and select the main one, click on Edit, and then click New to add the first item. Now I'm thinking of the first item, and I want it to be the customer information form on the main switchboard. In other words, I don't have to have it linked strictly to other switchboards from the main, but I can add, well, some forms and reports. The reason why I'm thinking about the customer info is that that's what our front-end users do most of the time, is adding new customers. So instead of having them to go through the main switchboard to the maintenance switchboard that contains that form, just have it right on top of the main switchboard. Okay, so it's the customer info. And when they click on it, I don't want them to go to another switchboard, but instead to go ahead and open up a form. You can open up a report. Well, you got other applications and macros, but notice it doesn't list tables or queries. And for the sake of this training video, we're just going to go ahead and open up a form or a report. Now, when you open up a form, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can either open it up in add mode, which means that you're adding a new record, or in edit mode, which displays all the records that are available, and then you can go ahead and find the record that you want to edit. So for customer info, we're always adding new customers, so we'll just say go ahead and open up in add mode. Which form is it? Well, it's going to be the customer info form. Click OK. And then let's go ahead and from the main switchboard, like you say, not junk it up too much, but add those 2 other switchboards that they can access to from the main switchboard. It's going to be new, and it's going to be the run reports. Go to the switchboard, it's going to be the report switchboard. Then we'll go ahead and click New again, and we'll call this the maintain data switchboard. So we'll go to the maintenance switchboard, click OK, and let's do one more, click New. I'm going to go ahead and select Exit Application. That way, when they're done with the database, they can go ahead and click on this button. It'll close the application but not the program. Click OK. So now from the main switchboard, we have command buttons that when they click on it will take them to the customer info form, the report switchboard, the maintain data switchboard, and then of course to close the application. So we want to go ahead and close out of here, and once we take them down to the maintenance switchboard and report switchboard, we want to be able to have items there that they can click on to, open up the forms in the maintenance switchboard and open up reports. And not only that, but to link it back to the main switchboard, so when we're done with our reports and we want to go back, we got to have a button that takes us back, right? Otherwise we're stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and select Report Switchboard, click on Edit, and add some items here. Click New. Category Sales, click on the drop-down arrow. We're going to open up the report here. Click on the drop-down arrow, and it's going to be the Q1 category sales. Click OK. Let's go ahead and click New again. Final Report. It's going to open up, of course, a report, and it's going to be the final report for Q1. Click OK. And then, of course, we need a button that takes us back to the main switchboard. So when we're done with our reports and we want to go back to the main, and from the main to get to the forms, let's go ahead and click New. And we want to go back to the main switchboard. Click OK. Okay, let's close out of that. Let's go ahead and add an item to our maintenance switchboard. Click on Edit. Click on New. Click on the drop-down arrow. We want to open up the form in edit mode. We already have the customer info form that we open up in add mode. To add new customers, this one will open it up in edit mode, this form. So I can show you the difference between the two. And we want to go ahead and edit the form categories here. Click OK. And you get the idea here how to add them. I'm going to go ahead and add a back to main button here. So let's go ahead and take us back to the main switchboard and click OK, and there we go. Let's go ahead and take it for a test drive. Let me close out of here. And if I need to make any changes, like I made a mistake, just come back up here, click on the switchboard manager to bring it back up, and then select the switchboard, click Edit, make the changes, okay? Close out. And then let's go ahead and open up the switchboard form, double click. Now, this doesn't look good, but you know how to redesign your forms and reports, so I'll leave that up to you, but the main functionality of what I'm trying to accomplish here is here. So we have the customer info, there's the corresponding button that when I click on it, it opens up the customer form here, but in add mode. That's why you don't see a list of all the customers, because we're adding another customer here. So I can go ahead and close out of here. Run reports, click on that. Takes me to the report switchboard, in which case I can go ahead and view the category sales report. Cool. Close out. We can go back to the main switchboard, and then from there, go to maintain data, where we can edit the categories. So it opens it up, lists all the records here, and I just need to navigate to the record that I want to make changes to or edit. You can go ahead and close out of that. Go back to the main form here, and then when we're finished, we can go ahead and close the application. It closes out of the database, not the Access program. I'm going to go ahead and open it back up. It was the most recent file here up at the top here. Click on it, brings it back up. After you learn how to create your switchboard and you want to modify it a bit, for example, let me double click and open up my switchboard form. Like I want to change the color of the buttons and get rid of the alternating row color. To do that, just go ahead and right click on it, go to the design view, go ahead and select the button here, and notice in the details section we just have one. Well, for each item it's going to duplicate, so if we change the one here, for those other items that we saw back in the form view, it'll update those as well. So to go ahead and change the color, click on the Format tab, go to the Control Formatting group, click on Shape field, and choose whatever color you'd like. Maybe something red that pops. And then for the alternating row color, go ahead and click on the Detail bar to select the Detail section here. And then come up here on the Format tab to the Background group and click on Alternate Row Color. From that shade to No Color. Let's right click, go to the Form view, and there you go. Now, if I want to be able to change the text for the switchboard here from main switchboard to Dreamforce and maybe update some of the items on that main switchboard, the text that is, I can do it one of two ways. I can either go back up here and click on the switchboard manager and select the switchboards, click on edit, and then change it here from main switchboard to main switchboards, make it plural, and then any items, go ahead and select it and click edit, and then change the name there. Let me go ahead and click cancel, close out, close out. It's not going to update here until I close out. Well, save the changes and then double click to reopen it. Then it's plural, switchboards. Or you can come in the switchboard items table, double click, and there we go. We have the main switchboard and the items 1, 2, 3, 4 that have been added to the main switchboard. And we can go ahead and change the text there. And then the items for the report switchboard, 1, 2, 3 items, and then for main switchboard, 1, 2 items. So I can come in here, get rid of the S, click in the record below it to save it, close out, go ahead and close out of the switchboard, and then double click to open it back up, and it's back to singular switchboard, not plural. Now if you're like, this is pretty limiting and looks very annoying, remember, we learned how we can go ahead and design a form. In other words, we could go ahead and right click, go back to the design view, delete the item here, and come up here and add the command button, add it 4 times, and for each command button we can write a macro that can open up the corresponding form. So when I go back to the form view, I can create 4 command buttons, one that will take me to the customer info, one that will take me to run reports, main data, and close the application. And then I can go ahead and move these buttons around anywhere I want on the form, not have it kind of blocked off like you see here, and have buttons that contain the text within the button instead of to the right side of the button. So your imagination is the limit, but if you're in a hurry, then this is probably the shortest and easiest way to go. Now, in addition to showing you how that switchboard can start up automatically that anytime anybody opens up this database, I want to show you some other features as well. So to get started, let's come up here, click on the File tab, go down to Options, click on the current database, and over to the right, you can set the application title instead of the generic one or the default name of the application integration database. We can go ahead and call it our Essential Oil Sales Database. And if you have an application icon, go ahead and click on the Browse button, and there's the graphic icon for our cells. We can go ahead and double click on that, and that icon will be displayed instead of the axis icon here. We can also use that icon as a form and report icon. Go ahead and check that. And then the form to display. Now, you can set this to the switchboard, but basically any other form that you want to have automatically start up anytime that anybody opens up this database here. So we'll go ahead and stick to our switchboard here. And then other things that I think that are interesting is that maybe I don't want to display the status bar, which is this bar down below here. You can uncheck that. Also the navigation pane, there's that. So this won't pop up over to the left-hand side. Let me go ahead and scroll down. You can also uncheck allow full menus and default shortcut menus, which means that when anybody tries to right-click, they're not going to get the shortcut menu. So if I uncheck those, and I can't get the menus, the only way to bring this back, including the menu when I click on the File tab to go to Options, because that's not going to be available, is to hold down the Shift key when I open up the database. So that's a little side note there, a little secret that you don't want to share with your front-end users, I suppose. In any case, let's go ahead and click OK. And then it says you have to close and reopen the current database in order for these options to take effect. Click OK, close out. Let's go ahead and let me open up the exercises folder. There's my integration database. Double click and there we go. It opened up the report. Now, do I want the tab up here? Because if I get rid of the tab, it'll actually centralize it here. So there's a few other things that I want to change. And you can see that there's no navigation pane. Also, when I click on the File menu, I don't get the options, so I can't make the changes here. As I mentioned, when we uncheck those two check boxes, it got rid of the menus, the shortcut menus. So to bring it back, let me go ahead and close out of here. Hold down the Shift key and then double click on the database and it brings everything back, including the navigation pane. So I can click on the File tab. Now I can see my options, click on it, go to Current Database, and then change it from tab documents to overlapping windows. Click OK. We have to close out, reopen it back up again. Double click on it. There we go. Now it centralizes the form. Looks a bit cleaner there. We've got our icon, and then we've got the title of our database, which is Essential Oils here, instead of the default name Integration. So it's pretty cool how we can customize this quite a bit. Now, if for some reason I need to bring up the navigation pane temporarily, hit the F11 key on the keyboard. That's another secret that you probably don't want to tell your front-end users because, well, when they open it up, they've got access to everything here and they just may close out of the switchboard and start using everything over here in the navigation pane, which I guess could be good if they need a bit more information that they can't get a hold of you at that time, but can simply come over here and access the queries and the tables. One more thing I think you'll find important, if you use this feature, you want to turn off the action query confirmation so when a query is run behind the scenes of a switchboard database, it doesn't rear up and display and panic the front-end user. So to turn off the action query confirmation, let's go ahead and close out and reopen up the database here. Hold down the Shift key, double-click. Then we can go ahead and click on the File tab, go to Options, click on Client Settings, and there it is, Confirm, Uncheck Action Queries. I'm going to go ahead and recheck all this, go back to my current database, clean everything up so we're back to where we started. Delete. I don't want that anymore. I want to go ahead and say None. I want my tab documents and display document tabs back, display the navigation pane, and also allow my full menus and shortcut menus. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel to get notified of the latest videos. And for great specials on my products, please see the description below this video.